Don in London. Hello. It's June 3rd, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction. Addiction to either substance or behaviour, or both. So my addictive substance was alcohol, and my behaviour, workaholic, relationshipaholic. Always trying to be the best I could, and striving for perfection. And I guess that's part of the message, really. If we strive for perfection, there ain't no such thing. So generally we can only make progress, and often life gives us problems, and often we can find solutions. And the most often when I find my solutions is in the company of others. So if I'm included, part of, and relating to people in a sort of equal fashion, even though some people will either judge me harshly or judge me as, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Whatever their prejudice might be, it's not my issue. What I need to do is approach the world with an open, honest, willing outlook, and be equal and try not to judge others. Just see how I am behaving myself in any given situation. And sometimes it can be very difficult, because when we're asked difficult questions like, what do you think of that, and what do you think of that or that person? Do you have an opinion how they treated me? And the answer is, well, I can only reflect and say, well, tell me how it felt. You know, how does it feel to be treated in a certain way? So we alcoholics, very sensitive people, and often even when we give feedback, we can be super sensitive and feel it as the worst criticism, and so want to go back to denial. And I'm no different in that. So when people criticise me, where's it coming from, I ask myself, and am I doing them any harm? And if they judge me, none of my business. But I do take care and take note of what people say about recovery, and look for wisdom in everything. And a few years in now, so it's June, and that's the 6th month of the year. In the program of AA we have 12 steps, and in one of the books I use here on YouTube to illustrate some of the literature which can be helpful, the Daily Reflections, this one, covers each step in a monthly order, if you like. So there's a page a day to have some meditation and reflection. And for June 3rd, it says here, on a wing and a prayer. I'm going to keep an eye on the time because these readings are quite long today. When we look at step 6, we have emphasised willingness as being indispensable, and the step 6 says, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. But you know what, all the steps bar one, we can only make progress. So when we talk about defects, it's probably a deficit or overusing certain parts of our personality in terms of attitude and behaviour. So when I said, you know, in the old days I used to be full of fear, putting on a brave face and ego, those could be said to be defects of character, or I'm utilising them too much, when in fact a bit more confidence, courage and faith might help. And it's faith in the situation, faith in me, and faith in an outlook that I can find the truth of now. So rather than cover up my fear, put on a brave face and be brittle in my ego, I try to look for courage, faith and confidence in each day. So it says here, step 4 and 5 were difficult but worthwhile, and that 4 is the fearless moral inventory, and step 5 is sharing it with another human being. Now I was stuck on step 6, and in despair I picked up the big book and read this passage. I was outside praying for willingness when I raised my eyes and saw a huge bird rising in the sky. I watched it suddenly give itself up to the powerful air currents of the mountains. Swept along, swooping and soaring, the bird did things seemingly impossible for mortal birds to do. It was an inspiring example of a fellow creature letting go to a power greater than itself. I realised that if the bird took back its will and tried to fly with less trust on its power alone, it would spoil its apparent free flight. That insight granted me the willingness to pray the 7th step prayer, and I haven't done that yet, but we'll get on to it next month. It's not easy to know God's will in each circumstance. I must search out and be ready for the currents, and that's where prayer and meditation help. Because I am of myself nothing, I ask God or good conscience to grant me the knowledge of His will and the power and courage to carry it out, just for today. And you know, it's being one with people, with nature, and knowing that if we go with the flow of life, with the the flow of where people are. And if they're into the solution of life, go with them. And if they're in the problem of life, don't go with them. Otherwise we get back to our fear, brave facing and ego very quickly. And in this book, the 12 by 12, which is 12 steps and 12 traditions, the short version of step 6 says this: we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. It's willingness here and progress. It's not perfection, and it's about being involved and included. That's how I see it. Step 6, necessary to spiritual growth, which is seeing reality. The beginning of a lifetime job, a day at a time. Recognition of the difference between striving for objective and perfection, and that is making it work, or being in the solution, not perfection. We must keep trying. Being ready is all important. Necessity of taking action. Delay is dangerous, rebellion may be fatal. Point at which we abandon limited objectives, which is my thinking and willpower, and move towards God's will for us, or a higher inclusion in what's going on around us, and good conscience, because we need to learn what is our good conscience. So it's not easy, and this is why they say it's a lifetime job, but fortunately lifetimes are a day at a time, so we merely make progress. And these things work because they're about inclusion, love, and being a part of. So on this book, as Bill sees it, you can read as many pages as you like on a daily basis, but I recommend doing one, because the more we try and change at one time, the more difficult it gets and very frustrating. And if we overdo it and overcommit, we suddenly find ourselves with so much to do, we can't do anything right. Just like me. And page 120, as Bill sees it, word of mouth. And this is where I may come unstuck with some people. My view, there isn't the slightest objection to groups who wish to remain strictly anonymous, or to people who think they would not like their membership in AA known at all. That is their business, and this is a very natural reaction. However, most people find that anonymity to this degree is not necessary, or even desirable. Once one is fairly sober and sure of this, there seems no reason for failing to talk about AA membership in the right places. This has a tendency to bring in other people. Word of mouth is one of our most important communications. So in the context of the time when it was written, back through the decades, people were very concerned about the attitude of the external world towards alcoholics. Generally, the stigma about it, no understanding of that it is a disease, no understanding that willpower doesn't work to conquer addiction, all those things. So most alcoholics, low bottom cases or rock bottom cases, like we all get to a rock bottom. We have the problem of the world doesn't understand it, and why should it? Because they haven't got it. But if you haven't got it, how do you understand it? So there is lots of stigma around this. And so it goes on to say, so we would criticise neither people who wish to remain silent nor even the people who wish to talk too much about belonging to AA, provided they do not do so at the public level and thus compromise the whole society. And that's so important, and that's why I say, without a doubt, I do not speak for AA. AA is full of unique, authentic people, and it has some traditions which hold it together. They were written in a time when it was most important that people felt comfortable, and I still feel that is right. For me, AA and anonymity provide sanctuary to find our spiritual truth, our emotional truth, and physically our truth as well, so we may then progress gently onwards. And the spiritual foundation for life is actually being in reality with less filters and denials. So filters are old behaviours, denials are I can't believe where I am today, I need a drink. And the answer is I don't need a drink. So the Serenity Prayer, which is all about acceptance of the reality of now, either an exhortation to God or your good conscience or whatever your higher power is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, because I don't need to change anybody else's view or outlook. Courage to change the things I can, and that is to change my view, outlook, attitude and behaviour, and learn the wisdom to know the difference. And if I do that on a daily basis, I've got a bit of a good shot at making one day work and going to sleep tonight without a drink. More later.